Hi, this is Juha from NouxCloud, and this video is about release notes November 2025. And this time we have a couple of big ones and then some smaller stuff, quite a bit. Uh, so let's go to the big ones. First one is called data snapshots. Now, when we think about uh, OT device such as PLC, backup and restore, it is not enough only to handle the PLC code, but also you need to be able to handle the parameters and so the variables and their values. And for that reason, we have developed this snapshot feature. And it works like this: that first in the data sources you need to define, or based on the data that you have defined here that you're collecting, like here the OPC UA collector, for example. So this has already been set up. Then we can take snapshots based on this data that has been collected or is being collected. And here we have two different features we can read or write. So first, if we configure this reader, so by adding a new snapshot, giving it a name and selecting that where to take the data, I could create this kind of a configuration of how to take snapshots. I will show it from this existing one if I'll go edit it. So here you can see that we could schedule it, based on time, or then we can well, actually I can show it here, because here's this cron expression. So it makes it possible, for example, 9 a.m. every day to take a snapshot. Or then we can use some other triggers, such as other values, that certain variable has a certain value, and then it will trigger the snapshot. And here we can then define that which variables are included in the snapshot, what is to be taken. And now when this is configured, by clicking this, I could take a snapshot, and then it would appear here. You can see that we have one taken from this example already. If we take a closer look what it is, so here you can see where is it coming from, when, the trigger method, and then the tags and their values, what has been saved. And okay, now if we want to restore this same thing, let's go back to the edge and the snapshot here. And here I could show that if I go to the writer part, so it would be possible to select this existing snapshot and then select where to put it. Normally, of course, it's the one that where we have taken it, and then I could write snapshot. Then it would take it to this and replace these variables with these values. Uh, this is a rather nice feature in that sense that well, based on these trigger methods, you can actually create restore points for the machine. Uh, so it have a bit like you have with your computer, so you can return to a certain specific uh, time or the position what the machine was doing. So that's possible. And then of course also because we can have multiple data collectors. Let's assume that if we would have a production line that has multiple PLCs and even with different technology or different manufacturers, it would be possible to create a snapshot from the whole production line, because it's always here collected first or configured in the collectors to decide what we are taking the snapshots from. Okay, moving on. The next big thing, this Data Act features. As you probably are aware, this Data Act is a new EU regulation, European Union regulation, and it has been or became in the force. What was it? September this year. So it's already in force. Uh, uh, what it basically means, please note here that we are not consultants on this Data Act, but we have developed a feature that we think it complies up to a point to this Data Act. So basically, to our understanding, what it means that if you as a machine builder have delivered a machine or sold a machine to an end customer, and you are collecting data from it, then this end customer is entitled to get the data from you uh, in plain English, so to speak, or you need to be able to tell the method in plain English that how to get the data. And then on top of that, it might be that some third party, for example, a company who does service to this end customer, is entitled to get this data as long as the end customer approves it. So keeping in mind these requirements, we developed certain features here, and I can now show it. Let's go to time series. You probably remember from last time this Explorer that here you can basically select certain data and see how it is, and then you can export based on this, even the raw data. So this is of course one method of doing it, but doing it. But then we have this, if somebody wants to use APIs and interfaces to get the data, we have this interface view. So based on the nodes that we have in the system, uh, let's assume that this node would be the end customer in question, or the machine that is there. You can open this kind of view that automatically shows that, okay, which variables are available, and then also this API, this documentation, uh, so that how you get the data, and you can actually even try it here, uh, something like this. So it's very easy for the end customer, or you can tell the end customer that, okay, here is how you have it. Of course, you need to be extra careful how you build this so that it is clear enough for the customer, like you can use these descriptions. In this case this is empty, but you should think that how to build these nodes and how to use these descriptions then, because the searching is also available. uh, but this takes you a long way. And of course here you can see that these APIs are now giving the last or latest data, and there might be some optimized grouping there, uh, same as we normally have in our system with the databases when showing them. So in that case, if the customer wants to have like the raw data and you cannot control it via the API, then it's possible to do it via this Explorer, like I showed you earlier, exporting the raw data. Okay, now it's not here because I didn't. Let's take it back, just to be sure to show what it looks like. Uh, like you can see here that here's also some kind of grouping, but if you want to from this time frame to have the actual raw data, then you can do it like this. And good to remember, again, we are not consultants on Data Act, so dear customer, you need to yourself decide how to handle this. We have one tool that helps you become compliant, but I bet that your customers, if they start asking something, they can ask way more than what this Data Act requires from you. So you need to yourself think first that what is the correct level of how do you do it, and then perhaps our tool can help, because like I said, you can now give access to end customer or even this third party, as long as the end customer allows it, by giving user accesses so that they don't necessarily see anything except this time series menu and then these interfaces. So totally possible. But yeah, I bet that there will be some questions later about this. So I welcome your feedback, and let's think if this requires more development. But I bet that with this, the initial feedback has been that with this you can start at least moving. Okay, then next, these were the big ones. So let's move on to the smaller ones. Alerts severity. Perhaps you have seen sometimes, unfortunately in these systems I don't have any active alerts, but you have seen perhaps that there's this severity thing, but it has been not has been possible earlier to enter like with all the methods when you are creating these alerts. Uh, so for example, it's if you create an alert via data flow. Uh, Here I'll just show the alert block. So here you can see now that you can also add severity here. So depending on that how severe alert you think you're working on, you can create the severities here. The same applies also to nodes. As you remember, you can do alarms here also. So if I would add here some kind of alarm, here's the severity too. And once these are in place and alerts are triggered, then they will be available here with the severity that you can then use to filter and prioritize how you handle your alerts. Okay, then the rest of the new central features are basically about data flow. So let's continue here. So the first one, data flow interval via occurrence, basically means equals a scheduled way of triggering data flows. So let me open this one, for example. Uh, Previously we have had here the interval or node. Interval meaning basically that, for example, every 10 seconds, and node meaning that some other node and its value, or rather some change in that node will trigger this data flow also. But now we have added also this what is called cron in the IT. Uh, it's a scheduled way of triggering things. There's a cron expression. By the way, this is the same expression you just saw in the data snapshots. So this is a very common way of doing it. Unfortunately, there's not like a user interface that select uh, each Monday every 3 weeks or something like that. But you need to enter this in this cron format. Uh, but this way you can create now scheduled triggers for the data flow, and the benefit here is that, let's now assume that you would have had multiple data flows that you need to trigger, let's say 9 o'clock each morning. That means that you just basically had to set the interval for one day and then save this, and then it a bit depended on that, how accurate were you about that 9 o'clock when you saved the data flow. So this makes it possible to actually schedule it so that you can control it better and schedule it to the actual time when it's triggered. Of course, you need to remember that these will take some time always to run through, and there's some lag and everything like that. But that has not changed from the situation before. We now just have opportunity to also trigger this via some scheduling. Okay, and then more data flows. So custom block multiple outputs. That means that if we go to these custom blocks, you probably remember that when creating a custom block, it is possible to add multiple inputs. Meaning, for example, if you have like an AND block with 4 inputs that you need to compare. So you could have done this previously, but outputs was limited only to 1, and that meant that with one custom block there was always one end result that you could utilize. Uh, if you needed, basically based on the same calculation, more outputs, you needed to build more blocks basically. But now it's also possible to add these outputs, meaning that with one custom block you can do the calculation and have multiple outputs then. So that is now possible. And then finally in this list, custom block were used. Uh, you can actually see this tab here. Well, this is a new one, so of course we cannot enter it. But let's go to see the existing custom blocks, because it's possible that you can have like tens or hundreds of custom blocks, and then also tens or hundreds of data flows that are using these custom blocks. Uh, so it is very important to see that where this is used. For example, let's take this test block one that we have here, and if I click this one, then I can see that okay, there's a data flow called test in the central application, because please remember these blocks can be also in the edge application running on the edge. Uh, so it's used in one place, and so if we go to this data flow, and it was this one, this test, if I open it, then I see here that okay, here it is. And as long as there's only one, doesn't really matter, but it's very important uh, when you start having multiple of these, because if you go and edit this, it will of course affect all of these. So you need to be extra careful when you're using the same custom block in multiple places, that do you uh, when do you actually um, do edits, and when do you need to make a new data flow or a custom block, because it might easily end up that if you're using one in the same multiple places, that you actually need to decide that no, all of these data flows cannot use the same custom block. So be very careful when you're revising these and editing these. Um, by the way, quick side note, let's open this again. So here we have this one. You see that we now have this log. We haven't been running this data flow, so nothing is shown here. But this log is very useful if you have some problems with this data flow and you're not quite sure that what is happening here. Then following the logs, at least seeing that okay, was it triggered, or did it fail, and perhaps for which reason. So it helps you troubleshoot a lot. Okay, and then moving on to new edge features. Well, many of these are of course also edge features, but perhaps edge specific, we have some improvements for the OPC UA data collector. First of all, it's now supporting this int64 data type, and then this index of single node array. So it's possible. I actually have I don't have an array to read in this demo system, but here you can see the collector configuration. So if we are trying to read an array, uh, uh, perhaps you remember these earlier possibilities too, that you can split the array to variables and collect them all. But if there's a it's also possible to read based on this index only certain variables, so you don't need to take all of those variables if you only need like one. So this is for that reason, and it is now possible to read. Okay, moving on to improvements. These are smaller things, but still good to have. Um, so Zoom user interface. It's about dashboards. If I jump to dashboards. Okay, let's go to this, for example. It is now a bit more, let's say, less clicks, so you can enable the zooming here immediately. So you can see it like this, and you also get this this one, so you can revert it to default, and then you can disable the zoom, so you don't need to go any other. It's all in the banner now. Um, and then this state time tracker reset. Okay, that means that we are going back to the data flows. Let me start a new one again. Now, good question is that where is it here under actions? So if this kind of a state time tracker, that okay, how long is one variable in a certain state or something like that. So now we have here also the reset input, so it's possible when you're building these to reset the tracker based on some value. Okay. And then virtual file system search, well, it basically means that you remember we have the files here, and well, not that many folders now, but like this, I can now search that what is here and when. Again, makes more sense when you have more folders and more files, but help you a bit to search if you have much stuff here. Okay, and then the next ones, I need to jump to another system, so please bear with me a while. And we are back. So I changed the system. I'm now in another system, and I'm trying to create creating a new dashboard, and I'm adding a graph panel here. What I'm trying to show here is this x-axis string type. Perhaps you remember, let me add a variable here, because normally the x-axis is always the it's the let's take this one for example. It's the time here, but it is possible to set it to be some kind of other variable. And previously the problem was that it could only be like a well, not string type, so numbers, not text. But now it is possible if I select we have this material ID also as a string. So you can, okay, now this doesn't make a lot of sense as a line, but let's make it the bar. So here you can see that on the x-axis we actually do have material here, and then some values filtered based on that one. So that is now possible. And then this hiding label node path, it means that we have a setting for that here. As you can see now, we have the whole node path in these figures, and well, you can see that sometimes this label becomes quite crowded. Plus, also, like in this case, we only have one variable, and we can see the node path already here. So I can enable this one, and now you can see that you only see the value, no longer the node path here. So it's not that crowded. Well, okay, that string makes it still a bit crowded, but you get the point. Okay, and then finally these areas in the graph panel. So there was there have been small improvements there. Let me first take this away so we can get something like this. And then you remember that we can mark some areas here, but now we have been editing a bit these. Why did I have to select so difficult? Let's take something easier. For example, this one. Okay, now here. Now if I mark the line something like, okay, failed quantity, and then this 5, 9. So you can see this, but perhaps these are more a bit better names now, this value and label, because I can, for example, tell here that okay, this is something to be desired, for example. So just a minor improvement here. Okay, that was basically the new features and improvements this time. And like I said, this first two are quite big ones related to regulation, like cybersecurity, this first one, and then the Data Act, the second one. So we hope that this helps you to become more compliant with the present and upcoming regulation. Thank you.